Welcome.
Hello. Here we go again.
So, as usual, we're going to give a little bit of time for people to join us. But we wanted to start, at 7 o'clock. We thought we'd try this new Monday night based on how it worked last time. And so, but nevertheless, tonight we're going to be talking a little more in depth about school performance and a little bit about work performance, because obviously they relate. But we are talking about K through 12. We've got some very interesting stories to share with you, but the impact this technology has on students has been quite remarkable over the last 15 years. And so, because a lot of people are starting to think about...
Excuse me.
Certainly.
Pardon me.
Yes. So many people are thinking now about getting back to school. And so whether you're K through 12 or you're going to college,
Yes.
or if you know somebody that is wanting to improve school performance, that's what we're going to be talking about today. So,
I know parents, moms and dads are like, oh, we're getting ready to go into school year. I know you're already getting your teachers and your all your school supplies, and there's that worry about if your child's not sleeping well, or they're anxious, or they maybe didn't perform as well as you thought they could last year. You're thinking, how can you help them? And I think tonight, if they're listening in, you're going to hear some great ideas on how you can help.
yes.
So,
And just as you might expect, for people that know Brain Life Center, you know that, we have what we call our top 4. And these are the areas that we've helped the most people. And so it's amazing how many people, thousands of people, have come to us for sleep, to improve sleep, with anxiety issues, which, can be anything from a panic attack to just simple test anxiety or social anxiety. We have people who they can't do well on tests because they sort of freeze up a little bit during the test and their memory's shot. And then we have depression. We're kind of amazed at how many people we've run into, especially young people, who they don't understand why, but they're starting to drift into what feels like kind of a meaningless existence. And school, because they have no sense of purpose, becomes just a day-to-day grind that they can't understand what's the point of it all. And then, of course, our 4th is focus and concentration, which is also ADD, ADHD, and that range of things. You can imagine what a difference focus makes when you're in school, in class. So, what do you think? We're about 3 minutes in.
yeah.
So, if do you want to give a little more time? Do you want to let some people
I
come
don't
in, or
know.
do you?
What do you,
All right.
what do you think? What do you think, Justin? What's a good amount of time for us to wait for people? Do you think we should
We
go?
can get moving. Okay.
We got approval from Justin, so I guess we can go ahead.
Yeah. So as I was saying, this tonight we're going to talk a little more in depth about school performance, a little on work performance, but we're really going to be focusing a lot of our attention on students, things we've discovered over the years, and just really even some practical things as far as K through 12 kids that are struggling, and there's a whole range of things, obviously, but how these technologies can help them, and even some practical things. We call it practical neuroscience, as some of you know. And some of the kind of tried and true traditional wisdom that when we blend this with our technologies, we have people experience pretty substantial breakthroughs. So what we can do is we'll start with this. And I'm thinking that we talked about Sean and we talked
Yeah.
about Kendra.
Yeah.
So I'll just let you know, as for people that might be new to Brain Life Center, we're actually brother and sister.
Yeah.
And we've been
He's
doing
my
this.
baby brother, just so you know.
She
It's
loves to
important
say
to know
that. But we've been doing this for about 15 years. And one of the reasons I got into this was because of the impact it had on, my oldest son, and then, of course, my youngest son. But my nephew and niece, which is her son and daughter, had amazing turnarounds because of these technologies. So you want to share, maybe start with Kendra?
Sure. Yeah. I'll say that God is so awesome that he brought this into my life when he did, because I didn't even know the need that was going to be there when I started this work. And the need was pretty heavy in those first couple of years. So as a matter of fact, you want me to start with Kendra. So Kendra,
Sure.
I believe, I was trying to think about this the other day. I always think she was around 15, 16 years old. My daughter was did well in school. She was in gymnastics. She very bubbly, outgoing person. And as she got into her teen years, she started to experience some injuries in gymnastics. And then all of a sudden, we just started to have issues with her, behavioral issues. She was doing things to self-medicate. She was having anxiety, even panic attacks. She even, at that time, she started doing some cutting, which is really just a way to try to manage how she was feeling. And her dad and I were really surprised because it seemed to come on pretty quickly. And I had started this work. I was in I believe my first year, maybe not even, 6 months in. And we had gone and seen doctors, and we went and saw a psychiatrist, and they were starting to talk about medications. And I think medication has a time and place, but it's never been a first or a go-to for me because I know that they come with a lot of side effects and can create their own issues. So I said, well, before we go down that path, we're going to give this work a try. And of course, she was at an age where she wasn't necessarily wanting to do this, but I was in a position to say, we're going to do this. So she went through this process, and after that, the panic attacks subsided. The cutting completely stopped. And she had depression as well. I didn't even mention that. So all those things got better. I'm not going to say that she's never felt anxious since. She even still, on occasion, that might be a tendency, but never to the degree that she had it back then. And it really, she was spiraling in a negative way. So this turned that spiral into a positive direction. And I just can't tell you how relieved we were. I mean, any of you parents, when your kids are struggling like that and you just don't know what to do, it can be a very desperate, scary place to be. So the other thing that came up later for her, that because we weren't focused on this, is that she noticed she always did well in school, but she noticed she was doing as well with less effort. She always felt like she had to work more than the other kids to accomplish the same thing. And after she went through this, and as she went into college, she said it took less effort for her to accomplish the same things that she had accomplished before. So I remember thinking that was fantastic, and that wasn't even something we were focused on, right? So with students, I know all of those problems exist. It's kind of sad because I think when we were younger, maybe, I don't know if it was a lack of awareness, but I feel like we were just having a good time when we were in those ages. And I know we got into trouble and there were some hard things, but I see today it seems like kids have a lot of anxiety and a lot of struggle with sleep and depression. So, I'm just so glad this technology is here so that if we would have gone the path of medication, I wonder sometimes where that would have taken us in the big picture. Medication is more like a Band-Aid. It doesn't resolve the problem. It just kind of covers it up while you're on the medication. So I'm just so thankful that we had this.
Before we discovered these technologies years ago, the medication route was kind of all we knew. It's like you take them to a doctor and you're like, this is a serious problem. Right. And then they send you to a specialist. And then, that specialist often ends up leading you to maybe psychiatry, which is predominantly medication. And when that's all you got, it can be a little scary because some of these medications obviously they can be helpful in the short run, but sometimes they're really bad in the long run. And we see this a lot. We see kids who have been on some medications for 5-6 years, and now they're having some serious issues as a result. And they'll come in with their parents, and sometimes they come here in part of the process where they're working with a doctor to try to wean off or at least wean down. So yeah, it is. Things have changed. Obviously, one big thing that's changed since we were kids is social media and just access to the internet. And wow, what a difference. I think everybody knows this makes a huge difference in a child's life when they got a smartphone in their hand at 5 years old. An iPad is kind of the babysitter. And is because it's so easy, and we're still figuring out the impact of, an online experience for kids that they don't know what it's like to not be online. This is something, you think of the generation coming up right now, even my sons who are now, in their 20s up to their 30s, they realize these younger kids, like my grandkids, they're being exposed to this stuff at such an early age, they just don't know a world without it. And there's no question, a lot of those sort of defects with human interaction, they seem to be magnified, many times with the experience online. So the worst of us sometimes gets magnified. Obviously, there's a lot of great things about it. But yeah, I think for you and me, we didn't have to deal with all that.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. What would you suggest to a parent who says, when you're talking about phones and technology and they can't, their child, our children, I feel like I'm a bit addicted sometimes. Like I have a hard time putting the phone down myself. So what do you recommend to a parent who's like, they know it's not good for their child, but their child's always on their phone? What would you recommend to them?
Well,
Just put you in the hot seat.
no, well, we've read a lot about this. It's a very interesting area, and we've had to, work with parents and kids. So some of the things that we've gone off and researched is things like this. It was even Steve Jobs, right? He would unplug the kids. They weren't allowed to have iPhones.
Yeah, what do you call that? A digital sundown?
Yeah, digital sunset.
Or
Yeah. So obviously, I think a lot of people know this intuitively, but actually making it happen is very difficult because the effort a parent has to go through to get their kids off a device, some kind of a device that gets them online, it is hard work. And then the schools use iPads and tablets. There's all these things that make it more and more difficult to get the kids off. So what we've just found is, digital sunset's great. Having a time where at this point there's no screen entertainment of any kind. And it's interesting too to distinguish between healthy use of online equipment, or even using a tablet or a smartphone, and having it pretty thoroughly monitored, which is hard to do. There's a big difference between that and just unhealthy screen entertainment that becomes addictive and spikes that dopamine and makes them kind of like that rat in the experiment that's scrambling across the grate to get his little dopamine fix. So nevertheless, what would you say? What do you think?
I think that as parents, we have to remember that we are parents, and even though our kids don't like our decisions, sometimes we just have to stick to it because we know what's best for them. And I will say, I'm at the other side of this now, where my kids are adults and they have children. And, my battle back then was video games, gaming. And I was pretty strict with my kids about how much gaming they could do in the house. And they were so angry with me, but I can tell you as adults, they're like, yeah, that was a good decision. So if you're in the midst of it and you feel bad because you're getting so much pushback from your kids, remember that someday they're going to thank you for making those hard, right decisions and limiting that and really sticking to it because you knew that wasn't in their best interest. So I like to tell parents that because it's hard. It's hard
they
when they're
fight
mad.
you tooth and nail.
I've had hateful words spoken to me when I said no to that. So
I remember Sean playing video games.
it would change his personality, so I knew it wasn't good for him. And he just needed to limit it. But I had to limit it for him because he
being on
was
his knees, right? And just
zoning out.
staring and just deep into the video game. You could say, "Hey, Sean," and he just had no idea you were there.
And he would be really nice before, but after spending some time on gaming, he wouldn't be so nice. Like it changed him. It was really, and he was the only one like that. But I know my older son wanted to do all that gaming too.
She's going to share. So she's got 2 sons and a daughter, and Sean is the middle child, and he went through this, and he was actually the first one to go through this. So we'll have you share in a moment, but I will just say some of the technical stuff. So
yes, I was going to say that too. Like we need to share what we do. What do we do here? If
Right.
no one's been here, they need to know a little more about that.
So in a bit of a nutshell. So number one, we discovered this interesting, it's an EEG auditory feedback system. So it's a neurofeedback program. It's proprietary. It's something that we actually have been able to customize over the years and improve. But how it's implemented, even the convenience, the way it looks, the way it feels, the safety, a lot of these things we've customized. But our primary technology is an EEG neurofeedback system, and it's primarily auditory. So what they've found with a lot of these technologies is that when you hear something, the amount of data that can be translated and taken in with your hearing seems to be much greater than what you can take in visually, at least in the area of these brain waves that they're picking up and translating. So feel free to help me out too. Like, do you want to, any other thoughts on the EEG?
I'll just translate. So we put sensors on your head.
Yeah.
Reads the activity of the brain, goes into the software, and is then fed back to you in real time. And the way that it's fed back to you, that gives you this mirror where your brain can see itself like it never has before, is through these micro interruptions. So when you're in the chair, you're going to be hearing beautiful music. You're going to have a beautiful visual. The sensors are on your head with pace. There's nothing uncomfortable about it. In fact, sometimes people fall asleep. It's so comfortable. But the mirror, these micro interruptions, are showing your brain itself in real time. So basically what it is we're holding a mirror up to your brain so it can see itself. It'll recognize the imbalances that aren't useful, and then your brain will go about correcting itself. So we're not manipulating anyone's brain. And basically, if you come in for a discovery consult, you can experience it and meet our team, and we can discuss your goals with you, and you'll experience it firsthand. Is that helpful?
Oh, fantastic.
So-
Yes, thank you.
So-
And just know, we have a technology room. We have 4 of them. And it's been 15 years where we've been customizing and developing how this functions. And a huge part of it is user friendliness and comfort. And we have techs that actually have been trained in how to use these different technologies in the most efficient way and the most comfortable way. And so these technology rooms, when you come in for a discovery consultation, one of the first things we do is we let you sit in one of these zero gravity chairs, and we let you experience the full technology room. So, I mean, we have spent years customizing these rooms so that these technologies we could basically get the most out of them. And it's amazing some of the little adjustments that we've made over the years and what a difference it makes for our clients. So sometimes your average client is sitting in that room for just under an hour. And so our goal is to make it a very comfortable experience while the tech is moving this technology around as appropriate, and then removing it and then placing some more technology, so it's all very safe, but there's a lot to doing it efficiently and getting the most from it. So,
and I think one of the best parts is you'll meet our team, because we have like the most amazing group of people here that are on mission to help. I mean, everybody here is just fantastic. And we hear that from our clients as well, but we know that because we get to work with them every day. So that's a real win coming in here as well. So
yeah, we hear that when clients come in, the first minute you have a sense that, okay, this is a fantastic team of people. They clearly have a heart for the client, and you feel that very quickly from the front desk. Wendy, Melanie,
yeah.
Deanna, I mean, there's a
Sparky,
number of people.
Jules.
Sparky. Yeah, then the techs that are running the chair.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic group of people. It's been a lot of years just kind of developing this team.
15 years.
Yeah, that's right, 2009.
I can't believe it. Every time I say 15 years, I'm like, wow, it's a while ago now.
So imagine if you have a daughter that's, say, 10 years old, and you know that, okay, something's up at school. She's feeling a lot of anxiety when I take her to school in the morning. And then at school, you're getting reports that she's not fully engaged. She's struggling. The teachers are, maybe sending notes home, sending home emails. And when you meet with the teachers, it's like, okay, she's really struggling. This could be an anxiety issue, which is pretty common, especially at that age, right around 6th, 7th grade, especially going into middle school, where suddenly they have a locker, they have more teachers, and sometimes bullies arise. There's certainly more room for that. It's amazing how this can start messing up their academics and their ability to study, to participate, to be engaged.
It can help with even social comfort. Like if there's a social anxiety,
Right.
It can help with that, which is really important, obviously, in school. And if you can keep that settled down, it's easier to be present and focused in class. But I even think, like when we were talking about screens, an example of how the technology helps the school performance is a lot of screens creates a lot of activity in the frontal pole of the brain. We know that because we used to do brain maps and we could see it on the brain. And most people I met had too much activity in the frontal pole, but some people it really stands out, and that usually correlates with ADD type symptoms. And when the mirror sees that, it'll recognize it's not useful and settle that down. And all of a sudden, that same child is like, "What?" Remember there was a little boy. You tell the story about how after you went through this, his
yes.
football coach.
The police officer's son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember that?
And he was I think he might have been 8 or 9, but so she comes in and she's kind of thrilled to tell us about this. He came in primarily because he was hyperactive. So he had ADHD, And it was to the point where they were talking about booting him out of class and putting him in a special class. And he played football, flag football. And on this football team, the coach, apparently up until this time, the kid never paid attention. He wouldn't even be in the huddle. And he would just be wandering around the field while they huddled up. And then during the play, he would just wander around, So one day, the coach is huddled up with the kids, and there he is. And the coach recognizes, like, this is bizarre because he's in the huddle and he's looking me right in the eye as I'm talking to him. And it was such an impact on the coach. The coach went to the sidelines and told his mother, like, okay, what is going on? This is a radical shift here. She mentioned Brain Life Center, but, and of course she shared this story with us. And an interesting thing too, is that coach ended up coming in. So it was nice to meet him in person and have him experience what we do here. So yeah.
And the change happens, you start to see change in 6 to 8 weeks. Like, this is not something you have to do for a year to get some results. There's no side effects. Yeah, it's brilliant, really. There's a question, can our technology help my child get off medications? What I would say is we don't help people get off medications because we're not doctors, we're not in the medical field, but our clients will work with their doctors. If that is their goal to come off medications, this technology can support that goal and make that easier for them. But we would always recommend that they talk to their doctor and come off meds properly and appropriately. And you don't have to come off medications to come in and see us. A lot of our clients will come in on meds, and if it's something they choose that they want to come off meds at some point, they won't necessarily do it before they come to us. In fact, we recommend they stay on them until we get the brain more into balance, and then they can look at ways to come off those medications. So it can be a tool to help you accomplish that goal with your doctor being in the lead. Because we have seen people come off medications too fast, and that can be another set of problems. And we are not doctors. We can't speak to medication. So I hope that's helpful. Someone's also asking if their child can come in during the school year. They can, but if you can have your child, no matter what age they are, this is a good time to bring them in because we can get a lot accomplished before school starts. If you have a college student, this is a really good time to have them come in before they go away to college. So yes, we can do it during the school year. Our first appointments are as early as 9 a.m. and our last are at 7 p.m. And Saturdays. So we have a lot of flexibility. But again, I think the best time is before school if it's possible, because we could get a lot done before they even have to get to their first day of school.
So I'm just going to address real quick on the medication question.
Oh, please.
So what happens a lot is people come in and they're on medications, or their child is on medication. And so what we'll do is we say, okay, but they're interested. They're saying, hey, is there any chance we can get off this medication? We say what Julie said. We want to make sure they know that, okay, there's got to be a doctor that you trust that's involved in this, but we'll take them through the process. And when they start seeing improvements, there's a confidence level that kind of arrives in that. And then they talk to their doctor. Now the doctor is seeing this improvement, and they'll set up a plan with their doctor on, okay, we want to give this a try. Clearly he's improving as a result of the technologies, because this is a natural passive approach, right? They're like, okay, let's see what happens if we wean off a little bit. But they'll talk to their doctor about a wean off program, and then they come back to us with that program. Sometimes we'll talk to the doctor. We usually don't have to, but he'll have that program set. And then we do a set of sessions. And because this is a cumulative effect, so it's like learning to ride a bike. When you learn to ride a bike as a child, if you didn't ride a bike for 10 years, you'd be able to get on a bike and you wouldn't be starting over. Your whole body kind of has developed a memory around riding that bike, even if it's been a long time. This technology, it turns out it's the same with the brain. So the brain gets familiar with a series of sessions, and then it really understands. Now when that child sits in the chair, its brain responds quickly. And so let's say it's a month later and it's like, okay, we now want to attempt to wean him off of X medication. They give us the wean off program that they've set up with their doctor. And now we are doing a set of sessions around the weaning off program. And the speed, it makes it much, much easier for them to get through that. So
yeah, you think about the medication is sending a particular message to the brain. It's either inhibiting or stimulating some activity in the brain. And you take that away, and then you give it a mirror so it can see the best way or the fastest way to get back to its healthy self. It just makes sense that it would speed the process up. You know who I just thought of as we're talking is, remember Dr. Stephen Hardy? Is that the right name, his last name? He was from Oxford. He was your doctor for a while. He's moved out of state now.
Oh, Hearts.
Hartz, thank you.
Yes,
Hardy.
Dr. Hartz.
Dr. Stephen Hartz, what
Yes.
an awesome man. His son came in. His son was in the workplace now and had been on ADD meds for 15 years. And after he went through this, his dad, who's the doctor, took him off the medication. And his mom and dad told me that they hadn't seen their son's happy, joyful personality in 15 years. And they were so excited. And his focus and attention was better without the medication at this point. So he sent so many patients to us.
Yeah.
Because when he saw that, he was like, I want that for all my patients. He was a wonderful man. I wish he was still in.
He sent me to Dr. Prasad, my cardiologist,
Right.
and then Dr. Prasad came in, and then this was huge for him, right?
Right.
And then he got his brother up here from Texas, and then his nephew, the golfer. So it
Well,
really,
Dr. Prasad, a cardiologist, got off blood pressure medications.
yeah,
I mean, not everybody does get off blood pressure meds, but he was able to, and he had such a change in his work performance.
Oh, and he was very meticulous about tracking everything with the heart. So he sent a number of his patients to us as well, put them through a program with this technology and had the same effects. So what this does for anxiety, and like I said, there's some people deal with test anxiety, and that's a real factor. When they feel kind of that pressure, whatever it is, they just don't perform as well. And boy, it's amazing what a difference it makes when you have a very a high level of energy, but it's a very calm sense of energy, and your ability to focus is improved. It just impacts so many aspects of school and school performance. So, so I will just mention this. I'll talk about my son. So I have 4 sons. My oldest was a major player in me doing this full time because I think this kind of saved his life. But I won't get into that right now. I'm going to talk about my youngest son. His name is Jordan. He actually did this when I believe he was in 6th grade. And I remember he had a number of teachers still. So when he decided, there was a number of reasons that we wanted him to come in and do this. But part of it is, once I saw what this did for other family members, I wanted everybody in my family to do it. So all my boys did it eventually. But Jordan did it when he was pretty young. And I was able to actually go in, meet with all of his teachers prior to him starting. And I told him, look, we're going to do this kind of crazy technology, but I just want you to pay attention. And if you notice anything, just make note of it, and then we'll meet when he's done, and you can tell me what happens. So, and by the way, Julie mentioned so many weeks to do this. Some people come in from out of state, and it's a 10-day program.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, we can do this in a very short amount of time. And I know we have programs set up for kids because certainly if you're dealing with ADD or ADHD, we know how to work around their struggle, even their ability to sit in the chair for a period of time. But that being said, my son, he was dealing with some anxiety issues and how he was getting engaged at school, engaged with the teachers in class. And I just remember he was really starting to feel kind of down about things. He was frustrated with school. He wasn't feeling very motivated as far as doing homework and assignments. And I can tell you, it was amazing to me. Because I got to talk to the teachers. Now, me and his mother noticed an obvious change in a very short amount of time. And of course, we were quite excited about it, as you can imagine. But then I had my after meeting with all of his teachers, and it was amazing. Every single one of them had all these positive things. Like, for example, he just started raising his hand a lot more. He started getting engaged, answering questions, and participating, which he's a bit of an introvert. He still is today, but wow. I mean, it kind of broke him out of that at a time when I think it was essential for him to do that. And so we just saw major improvements. His ability to read, this is something we hear all the time. Even people that don't come in for this, if they read, they'll talk about how they're reading and the last couple of lines just blank out. And they're like, oh my God, I just blanked out a little bit. I can't remember the last 2 sentences. This kind of experience dissipates. And suddenly they're reading and they're actually starting to get into that flow state, especially if it's a story, something that they like. But the ability to read and flow in that reading and then actually retain the information, it can be enhanced dramatically in a very short amount of time.
And we hear that from people from all ages.
That is so
But
common.
it's needed
amazing.
for school, right? But
Yes.
we've had people, I never liked to read, and now I'm reading
Yeah.
because they can enjoy it, right?
Yeah. Remember James from WMUZ? He's a producer. He pointed out that after he went through the sessions, he, for the first time in his life, and this is a guy in his late 50s, I might be wrong, he might be early 60s now. James, forgive me if I'm wrong, but he ended up reading the Bible cover to cover for the first time in his life. He had read bits and pieces, but he had always wanted to start cover to cover from the beginning to the end. And he shared with me not too long ago that after he went through this, he set a plan and followed through and started and finished the Bible in a year. And he was amazed at his ability
That's
to
pretty
do that.
amazing.
Yeah. So
I just
yeah,
saw,
that reading
I just
thing
saw
is huge.
Jordan out there. I wonder if we could get him to come over and like wave and say hi. His son.
No worries. Don't
I know you said he's an
no pressure.
introvert, but I just think you should come and just wave and say hi. This is Jordan we've been talking about, David's son.
Yes. I'm talking about when he was in 6th grade, but obviously he's a little older. So
He's so good that we have recently hired him to help us here. He's come such a long way.
yeah, he actually works for us in another company and does incredibly creative work. And
Yeah.
I don't want to go too much into it, but yeah, he's come a long ways. And it turns out he's a very talented and pretty driven young man. So,
I know that was a little sidetrack, but if you can meet them
Yes.
face to face.
Aunt Julie drags him in. Where are we for time? Because we've got some other things we want to cover. and I
About
want to
10
make
minutes? We want to be about 40 minutes, do you think? Hi, Mel
30 minutes.
in Buffalo,
Oh,
New
good.
York.
And we're gonna-
And Nathan and Jason. Hello.
Yeah, Nathan Grindle and Jason. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate
Yeah.
it. And again, any questions you have, continue to
Thanks,
throw them
Jordan.
at us. Yeah, thank you, Jordan. So I think you should share the story. I'll throw a little technology in real quick, and then you should talk a little bit about Sean, because that was
Okay.
pretty amazing. So
My kids love when I talk about them. Did
Yeah.
you enjoy that too, Jordan?
I did. All right, Sean was a little older, but a little technology. So know that what we do, we've developed a system of technologies and practical neuroscience, and we talk about this traditional wisdom. And what we found is when we first started, we were just doing a base technology. And a lot of people had a lot of success, and we were just blown away by it. However, we found that for long-term results, the most lasting results, if we could find certain practical neuroscience techniques and tools that would just help improve brain function, especially at a time as the brain was starting to improve, they're noticing improvements. We could posit something like fabulous techniques for focus and concentration. There's some new technologies specifically for focus and concentration that people can take home. There's really interesting technologies that you can take home that are around somebody, a small child who struggles with hyperactivity, just to help them sit still. It is fascinating, some of these technologies and what they're learning in the field of neuroscience around focus and concentration and that kind of hyperactive struggle that a lot of young boys have. So know that this is a system of technologies, but the primary technology is the EEG neurofeedback system, which is primarily auditory. We have these really fantastic speakers that we've custom mounted to these zero gravity chairs. We have large screens that present some of the visual feedback, which is a small percentage, but we've hired artists to do these really beautiful videos that have been designed and uploaded for the purpose of maximizing the benefits of these technologies. And then we also have something called a photobiomodulation, and it's a transcranial and intranasal unit, but this is from an engineer, a doctor, Dr. Lim out of Canada. It was designed based on all the discoveries they were finding in this type of technology and enhanced brain function. And so this actually helps improve oxygen uptake in brain cells. It helps improve blood flow throughout the brain. And so we're finding that these support technologies are enhancing the brain's ability to respond quicker and more effectively to our primary technology. And so we talked to a lot of people in order to figure out the proper duration and the order of things so we could get the most out of this set. And there's quite a few more, but that's probably I don't want to overdo it with the technology.
That's good. I think that's helpful.
Does that help? Okay.
Yes, I think that is helpful because people do want to hear those details.
So now you got to talk about Sean, my nephew, and your son,
Yes.
and the impact this had on him.
Yeah, so being brother and sister, is there any member of our family that hasn't gone through this?
Not that I'm aware of. If you point them out, we will get them in here. No, there's nobody.
Which
that,
means
I mean,
we just get to be surrounded by these people that have healthy brains. It's a great way to go. So Sean, when he was 19, he had gone to college, but he did okay his first year, but not so good his second year. And he had to leave college, came home, was kind of living in the basement at the time, didn't have a car yet, didn't have a job yet. And his dad and I were really concerned. And Sean had struggled with ADD. I kind of hate these names, but you know, I did homeschool him for 7 years, so I did experience what that meant. And so when he was 19 and he came home and he was in the basement, my husband and I are like, well, we can't really let him live at home and not be working and not be in school because he needs to become a man. So how do we, you know, what do we do? And this conversation was being had while I was in Arizona being trained in this kind of technology. And so we flew him out, and he was one of my very first clients, and what a change happened. So here he was, not in school. And if any of you parents have young people with ADD, it's really hard because it can feel like they're being lazy. It could feel like they're on purpose not listening or not following along or not doing what you've asked them to do. But honestly, since I've been doing this work, I would say it's just some obstacles that need to be removed because, you know, Sean was always just a great kid. He made good decisions. He loved the Lord. He was doing wonderful things, but he just couldn't do well in school. And after he went through the program, he came home. And when I would try to help Sean to get a car prior to that or get into school, I would have to kind of lead it and pull him along. And I think any parent with someone with ADD knows what I'm talking about. Like the initiative wasn't always there, or the initiative was, but not the follow through. So it was like I had to kind of pull him along. And after he went through this process, he came home, he got himself a car, and I was not initiating it. He got himself accepted at OCC. He had to get a job because now he had to make money to go to school. He got himself eventually into a university, and he graduated. And since then, I mean, I would say, you know, he's been promoted in his workplace. He's married. He just had his third baby girl. He's an amazing father. He's just doing fantastic in life. And, you know, back then we were like, what's he going to do if we kick him out? Like, I don't even know how he's going to function. You know, it was kind of a scary time, and it was a complete turnaround. And what's kind of interesting about this time is that Sean did say to me that he didn't think that Brain Life Center helped him. He felt that he just got motivated. And of course, his dad and I were like, well, we don't really care what did it. We just want him to do well and have a quality life. But a year later, he heard me telling someone that he didn't think it was from Brain Life Center. And he said to me, and I know it's been 15 years, and if he hears this, he probably doesn't remember this, but as a parent, I remember this. He said, I know now that it was Brain Life Center because that was the turning point for him. He said, after that, I noticed kids would look out the window when the teacher was talking, and that used to be me. Or they will ask a question of the teacher that the teacher just explained, or they'd miss turning in an assignment that, you know, they were supposed to turn in that morning because they didn't get the message right that it was due that morning. And he said that is what he was dealing with before. Now that was easier for him. So that was great for me to hear that he recognized where the change came from. But another thing that I thought was really powerful is when he realized that it was an obstacle and it wasn't necessarily his fault, because he was a good kid and he was trying to do the right things, but he had this obstacle, which was way too much activity in the frontal pole that made it hard for him to be present and stay on task and do the things he needed to do. And now when you have ADD and you're a young person, you notice that you're not picking things up as quick as other people. It can really impact your confidence, your sense of how you are in the world around you. You know, you compare yourself. And so once he knew it was that, it just felt better that it wasn't his fault. And now he's doing amazing. So I love to tell young people that are struggling, like, it's not your fault. Because oftentimes it's not their fault. I'm not saying it's not sometimes their fault,
Yes,
but if they're struggling with
we're big on
ADD,
personal
yeah,
responsibility.
it's all about personal
But
responsibility.
it is stunning because we went through this ourselves,
Right.
and to experience the technology, and then when your brain starts to reset, it just until you experience it personally, it's a real surprise because for me, my focus and concentration improved dramatically. I dealt with anxiety, but I was kind of surprised at the calm, peaceful energy that I started to feel on a regular basis. I started sleeping better, and I really didn't recognize that I wasn't sleeping that good. But wow, when you get a really deep, restful sleep and you wake up and you have energy, you're more alert, everything's functioning better. So that part where you talk about that it's not always their fault. If you experience this reset and your brain starts functioning better and it's that obvious,
Yeah.
when you go back to whatever you're doing, whether it's work or school or just how you are in your family, it's like, okay, everything just got way easier for me because I'm coming at it with a brain that's just functioning better. And I mean, I had that personal experience. I think we've talked about this being kind of our secret sauce in being able to work together and have the success that we've had here for the last 15 years.
When he gets out of line, I just make him go do a session, and then we're okay. No, I'm kidding.
Actually, my wife actually says you might want to get in the chair.
If I don't tell him, his wife tells him.
Yeah.
Everything. No.
Wonderful. So,
You know what? I feel like I need to tell the end of the story.
we should mention these too.
Okay,
Yeah,
can I
some
let me
of the
share this and
logistics.
then I'll do that.
Please.
So we talked about Kendra at the beginning of this and her story and how she got injured in gymnastics and
yes.
she went through anxiety and panic attacks and all of that. I just want to tell you what my daughter is doing right now. Right now, my daughter is in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and she is about to purchase a gymnastic academy. She's been running it for 4 years, doing amazing things. And the most amazing thing is that she has such a love for these kids and she can relate to some of the hardships that they go through. And she just wants them to have a culture where they can grow and be loved and do fantastic. So one of the things I like to tell people too is these things that we go through in life that are hard, God promises he'll make all things good for those who love him. And I watch that in my daughter. And so, I mean, her life is fantastic. She's really made a beautiful life for herself. And again, I always wonder, like, I'll never know what life would have been like without Brain Life Center, but I'm so thankful for the changes it's made in my whole family's life. So I just want to share that part because I kind of shared the hard part,
Yeah.
but
She's a
done
sweetheart.
beautiful things.
And
She's an amazing young woman.
She's just come so far. And I mean, to actually be in the position she's at has been an enormous amount of work, but it's a lot of focus work. And even her awareness of kind of building systems and working with groups. I saw her at that meeting give her speech and accept all those accolades from the parents. The parents love this woman. And it is really wild because there was a time, we're very close. So when my niece was really struggling, you're like, I don't know if she's going to make it through this. It gets so bad that you're just not sure how
Yeah.
bad things can get very bad. But she made it through. And I do remember the turnaround. In fact, she came and worked for us for a while. So I got to work with her. That was fantastic. But it was just a major, major turnaround. It's amazing what this can do. And it's just a surprise. For me, we have this thing where we just want to see what their brain will do, get them in the chair, see what the brain will do, because no matter how skeptical they are, no matter how much, sometimes the kids are not interested. They don't want to sit in that chair for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, so, but it's like, if we can just get them in there, have them sit still. We have ways, even with the kids that are jumping around, we have ways to calm them down just enough to go through the sessions, put things in place, 33 minutes here, about 20 minutes there. Suddenly they start to feel more relaxed and calm, and the kids have no idea what's going on other than the parents are like, oh boy, things are changing. He's not running around like crazy anymore. He's actually paying attention. He's much easier to work with. And with Kendra, we saw this change start to take place. And it's not like the experience, there is a kind of a feeling of wow for a lot of people. For some people, they look back over, say, a 3-4 week period, sometimes 6 months later, and they're like, okay, that was an extremely pivotal time in my life, but it was subtle enough, spread out over a couple of weeks, that it wasn't really clear until a few months later. And then they're like, wow, okay, yeah, everything's changed here. Everything's changed.
Yeah.
That's how Sean was.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just wish I could do a fast video before and after and
Yes.
show it to people because it's hard to believe that this technology can do that kind of amazing change in someone's life, and all they're doing is sitting in a chair with sensors on their head and watching. So it's too good to be true. I mean, it really is.
So I better mention this, right? So before we wrap this up, we are giving away just over $2,000 in prizes tonight. And so Julie's will show you some of the things. The way to get entered even now is if you just call the number 248-922-9490. But if you call that number and you schedule one of these 60% off discovery consultations. So how much is that? That's $39?
Yes.
Do I have that right? $39. So
Yes.
we're going to spend about an hour and a half with you. But if you do that tonight, you'll get entered into win. And we're going to be given, like I said, $2,000. So if you schedule that, you automatically will get this when you arrive. Plus you get the 60% off. So
Yeah, so we have people at the phones right now, so you can call the 248-922-9490. And if you're just not sure about what we're talking about, but you want to see some change in your family, come in and do this appointment. There's no pressure. We're just going to educate you enough to make a decision that's best for yourself. But it's kind of nice because you get our beautiful Brain Life Center cup that says be transformed by the renewing of your mind. You get a $100 gift certificate to go with it. And so you can call the office between now. Are they going to be here? I think till 8, maybe a couple minutes after.
I think at least till 8. So.
And then also, if you do that, thank you, Jordan.
Yeah, this is the big grand prize tonight.
This is the grand prize, and this gives you a $1,200
It's all focused
discount.
on students of all ages, and
Just a
they
fun.
Wendy and
did
them
this.
put-
She
yeah,
does
they
a
put
great
something
job
really
putting
neat.
our presents together. But
that includes a $1,200 gift certificate also. So, boy,
And
that
this-
makes it much easier.
is a $350 gift certificate, and it's just a little smaller gift. But please call and schedule a discovery consult, and let's see if we can be of help to you or your family with some of the things we talked about tonight, and take advantage of these the drawings that we'll be doing. So
Yeah, so just know the discovery consultation, you're gonna meet the team. We're gonna show you one of our technology rooms. We're gonna show you some of these technologies. You'll actually get some samples so you'll really know what it's like. Then we're gonna sit down with you and go in depth into what you're specifically struggling with. So if you're here with your son or daughter, or if you're a college student, we're gonna go a little more in depth so that we can make recommendations with the system of technologies that's lined up with what you're hoping to achieve. And by the end of this meeting, you'll really understand. I'm guessing you probably still have questions, but at the end of this meeting, you'll know exactly what this looks like for you. So I think we're out of time. Are we?
yeah, I think we should.
Okay.
But I wish we would have shared that earlier so people would know and had a little more time to make that decision. But
Yeah.
they have 15, 20 minutes to call in. So please let us know if we can be of help or answer any questions. If you're not even sure if you want to schedule and you just have questions, feel free to call.
Yes. And thank you for joining us.
Yes.
Thank you for the questions. And we look forward to doing this again. It looks like next month we're going to be doing a live event, and we're going to do it on depression. We've had a
Yeah.
lot of people interested in depression, so we're going to really dive into that a little bit more next month.
September 9th. at
September
7
9th.
o'clock.
It's going to be another Monday, September 9th
Yeah.
at 7 o'clock. Yeah. And there's a lot more going on, so we'll share that with you as the weeks unfold. But thank you for joining
Thanks
us.
for joining us. Have a great night. Be blessed.